Hi! We're Primary Tenant Pod. I'm Joy.
And I'm Will.
And we are talking about everything PWHL Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we last recorded our podcast because we were in 2 different countries for most of it.
Yeah.
Since we last recorded. And during that time, 3 major things happened in the roster building process for PWHL Vancouver.
Yep, we had an expansion draft, free agency hit, and then we had the regular old entry draft. And through that process, we accumulated 18 more players and also a head coach.
Minor detail.
Yep, that happened. And so we went from 5 players to 23 players, which is basically the full roster size that you can have in the PWHL.
Yeah, we have a team now, folks.
Yeah, we have a team. It's crazy.
So during the expansion draft, it was happening while I was in the air over crossing the Atlantic, flying to Germany. And I touched down at the Frankfurt airport for my connection. The first thing I did was I just opened YouTube and I watched the entire recorded live video, freaking out, crashing out, losing my mind during my connection. Then I had to hand over my passport and go onto another airplane and sleep.
Yeah, and while the expansion draft was happening, I was at work watching it on mute on my work computer. Very productive things, but I was also doing my own crashing out, but quietly.
Priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah, professionally.
Exactly.
Quietly.
Yeah.
And during the library, just silently crashing out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As Megan Carter went to Seattle, as you predicted.
Exactly. I was right, guys. When we did our mock draft, I picked a name out of the blue from the Scepters who I liked, and she actually went to Seattle, which I predicted.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
big
and
brain.
I predicted Ashton Bell to Vancouver.
Yeah, first overall.
It was
as
just
well.
ding, 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 and we also predicted Daniel and Gosling, not to the correct teams,
but to expansion teams.
Expansion teams.
Yeah, so I would count that as 1.5 wins for each of us.
Exactly. We just honestly we nailed it. If I do
We
dare
kind
say
of
myself.
did.
Kara Gardner Maury and me, we were on a wavelength.
Yeah.
And you were on a wavelength with Turner.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so we had the expansion draft, which drove multiple knives to our chests, but also exploded blossoms and balloons of happiness and confetti and joy. Terlova to Seattle did hurt me so much as a current and former Ottawa fan.
Yeah.
I was devastated by that. And then I was also like, but Bell is on my team, but Terlova is not on my team, and I don't know how to feel about this, and I cried.
Yeah. Like as a former Scepters fan, current Scepters fan, but Vancouver is my main team now.
Yeah.
Obviously. Carter and Gosling did hurt to Seattle. It did hurt, but we got Daniel. But anyway,
you love Daniel.
We do love Daniel. We'll get there. So basically, we haven't even said which players we got. We've been yapping about a few of them.
Yeah.
We selected
in the expansion draft.
Yes, in order: Ashton Bell.
Yes.
Brooke McQuigg, Abby Boreen, Izzy Daniel, Gabby Rosenthal, Denisa Shishova. Please help.
Yeah, her name features a sound that we don't really have in English. It's the R with the hot check, and I'm not skilled at pronouncing it, so we're just going to do our best.
I love Czech names. I'm going to try my best. Announcers have said Shishova.
They have. They've been saying Shishova, so we're just going to roll with that.
Yes.
Apologies if it's terrible.
An attempt to get better with time.
Okay. And then last we selected Sydney Bard. So
exactly.
That's Belle from Ottawa, Brooke McQuigg from Minnesota, Abby Boreen from Montreal, formerly of Minnesota.
Yep.
Daniel from Toronto, Rosenthal from New York, Shishova from Minnesota, and Sydney Bard from Boston.
We are not beating
the Minnesota
allegations. We are the Vancouver Minnesotas.
We are the Vancouver Minnesotas. I do kind of hold this proudly, though.
I know. Me too.
Yeah. I am friendly with quite a few Minnesota fans, so I've been hearing a lot about how good the players are from them. So it's been really pretty awesome.
And I have heard that Shishova is a great locker room presence. Yeah.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
We love good vibes.
I'm hearing locker room DJ. I'm not sure about that. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Yeah.
So those are the players we got in the expansion draft.
Yes.
And then free agency hit upon us while I was in Hamburg. A distinct time difference away of 9 hours. Finding out this information through transit Wi-Fi on the U-Bahn, riding around the city, being blasted with news.
And the U-Bahn is like the equivalent of the Vancouver SkyTrain.
Exactly.
Except bigger and better.
And better and with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I didn't say that. Okay.
I love the U-Bahn. I miss it so much. But this is where I learned that Teresa Vanashova was a PWHL Vancouver player.
Yes.
We need a name, man. Anyway.
We do!
And I crashed out live in front of people in the public on this German SkyTrain. So it was an amazing experience, honestly. I would recommend doing that.
And we did get 5 players in free agency, just regular free agency.
Oh, yes, that's right.
We started with Hannah Miller, huge signing right off the bat because she was like the premier top free agent of this cycle.
Yeah.
And so she came from Toronto as well. I always say Toronto with a T because I'm not.
We're from Vancouver.
We're from Vancouver. Yeah, and she's a North Van girl as well.
Local.
Yeah, so which is awesome.
People were kind of predicting Hannah Miller to Vancouver during the exclusive signing window, and then that didn't happen, and then
But
she just did it during free agency.
Immediately dropped during free agency, and I think everyone was like, "That is correct.
Yeah,
that is correct." I was sad as a Scepters fan, overwhelmed as a Vancouver fan with happiness.
We are so happy.
Yes.
And then we signed Kava.
Michaela Kava.
Yeah. She was rumored to be signing with Vancouver for, it felt like a number of days before the signing actually dropped. So I was in a state of high tension, like, are we getting her? And then it actually happened, and I was very, very happy.
Yes.
And then, of course, we got Vanishova. As an Ottawa fan, beamingly overjoyed. As a fan of Czech women's hockey, beamingly overjoyed. This is just really, really amazing for me personally. And
obviously, what?
Yes, you were saying?
Yeah. Many points for Ottawa.
Many points for Ottawa. Many penalty minutes for Ottawa.
A lot of grit. A lot of skill.
Yes. But most goals, most points, most penalty minutes, most fights.
Yes. Because she took part in the first ever PWHL fight.
Yeah. She was exchanging blows with Jill Saulnier of Boston, and it was just a great moment. And of course, it was Vanishova, and now she's on Vancouver. And I think the identity that we're building, you know,
like, a lot of toughness and scoring punch.
Literally. Also, another thing about Vanishova is Vanishova, Vancouver. Do you get what I'm saying?
I see it. Yeah. The chants could go crazy.
Yeah, we could have so many slogans, so many good signs, so many chants. Vanishova, Vancouver, gotta make something happen.
Yeah.
Vanishcouver. No.
We've tried this before.
We have.
We've been trying to workshop something.
It's not working yet, but I know smarter people than I will be able to come up with something good. I can just feel it.
And then we will ride that train. That Sky Train. Anyway. Our next signee was Emma Greco.
Yep. From Boston, formerly of Minnesota.
Yep.
And notably, Emma Greco is also the partner of Michaela Kava, who we both signed in free agency.
So...
And also notably, they were both on Minnesota in year 1, where they won a championship together. And unfortunately, Emma Greco ended up going to Boston for year 2 of the league. But now they're reunited here in Vancouver.
I know!
Which is awesome.
So we keep accumulating more players with championship pedigree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And players who are in love with each other.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get to that. Anyway, this is couple 1.
This is couple 1. We will get to couple 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then last but not least, in free agency, we signed Melissa Channel-Watkins, who notably was a deep partner of Sophie Jakes last year.
Sophie Jakes, who was one of our first signees in the exclusive signing window.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Both from Minnesota, both having just won a championship. Or 2. So this is just really wonderful. We just imported a championship-winning, excellent D pair onto the coast here in Vancouver.
Yeah, like the top 3D from Minnesota, I would say.
Is this unfair? Maybe. Do I care? Maybe not.
We will cherish them.
We will cherish them.
We really
so
will.
Yeah, I want all the other fans to know that we really love them a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was free agency.
Yeah, just a quick rundown of the players. Yeah. And then in the draft...
Oh, the draft. That was another...
The entry draft.
The entry draft. That was another time where I was watching it on mute at work. I don't know why they keep scheduling these things when I'm at work. It doesn't work for me.
The entry draft also happened the night before I was due to fly home to Vancouver. My flight, I was supposed to get up for it at 5 a.m. The draft started at 1. I was like, I'm going to watch like the first round, and then I'll try to sleep. I didn't sleep. I watched the entire thing, and then I had to get up for my 13-hour travel day. So.
See, I remember when you texted me saying, I'm going to go to sleep after the second round, and I already thought you were playing it a little bit close to the edge there, you know? Yeah. It was like 2 in the morning or something, and then you didn't tell me that you were still awake for the rest of it.
I watched the entire thing. I couldn't put it down. I was like, okay. And
really,
Michelle Carvinen, but what if? And then Kristen Campbell hit, and then we'll get to
We're getting ahead of ourselves. It was really fun at the end. But then
the next morning, I was traveling with my mom, and I didn't want to piss her off by saying I'd stayed up the entire night watching the draft. So I was like, Mom, I couldn't sleep, but not because of the draft. Don't worry. But we have Nina Job-Smith now. Not to spoil another draft, pick, but
anyway, now that we've again listed off
German,
at least,
so she cares about that.
Yeah, now that we've listed off at least 3 players we got in the draft, I'm just going to list all of them.
Yeah.
So, with the 8th pick, we got
7th pick.
Oh, crap, you're right. I forgot.
Yeah, because Vancouver and Seattle switched off in the bottom two.
Yeah.
Of-
You can
of
tell
the
I was
draft.
watching this on mute. Okay.
Yeah.
Michelle Carvinen.
So we had this
Absolute legend.
pick in the first round.
Yes.
I was very excited about this. Everyone was kind of wondering where she would go because she was obviously like probably the biggest name in the draft.
Yeah.
35, absolute legend, international club, just
Yeah.
excellent everywhere she's ever played.
Yeah.
And then Vancouver ended up drafting her in the most fantastic outfit that anyone has ever worn to a PWHL draft.
I
dare
agree.
say.
That hat, I want a hat just like that.
For me, it was the bandana.
Yeah.
It was the bandana and the jacket. It was like she has a vision. She has an aesthetic.
Everything
And she is a
about it.
graphic designer, by the way, so it all makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And we have like a little bit of, like she's played everywhere that there's professional women's hockey to be played, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
She played in Sweden. She played in Russia. She also played NCAA under our new head coach, which we'll get to. And now she's going to play in North America,
Yeah.
which is really exciting.
That is
And
very...
we get to have her.
I know.
Michelle Carvinen, absolute legend.
Yeah. Okay. That was really cool for us. I loved that.
Deeply cool.
Yes.
And then...
Also, I was going to add something.
Mm.
It'll be even cooler when she will inevitably score her first hat trick in Vancouver, on Vancouver ice, at the Pacific Coliseum, and everyone who is wearing a fantabulous hat in her honor will throw off their hats onto the ice in honor of her hat trick, and she'll just have an enormous collection of brilliant new hats in her hat size because we will have done the research.
Her hat was pretty baller. She wore a baller hat to her wedding. I think she just loves baller hats, so we just have to contribute to that to really show our love for her.
Exactly.
I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's just our present to her. Thank you for gracing our city. Have more hats.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, anyway, that's Carvinen. And then big surprise. So
Yeah.
this was a very notable entry draft because this was the first one where players could be traded at the draft, not just picks.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a lot of really massive trades, including one that involved us. So Kristen Campbell had been involved in trade rumors for quite a while. There were rumors float that, she wasn't happy in Toronto, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not really sure, about all the details behind that. But she did end up being traded to Vancouver.
Exactly. So we traded away our second pick
Yeah,
for her.
Yes. Yeah.
So we didn't have a second pick in the second round pick in the draft, but we ended up with Kristen Campbell.
Yeah.
Therefore, giving us a Team Canada goalie tandem.
Exactly. Of second string essentially and third string, which will be. I was very interested in how we would get our kind of backup goalie. I thought
Yeah.
we might draft one. I had my eye on Hannah Murphy.
Same.
Seattle ended up drafting Hannah Murphy goalie.
Yeah.
I kind of was hoping that we would. But then we ended up trading Kristen Campbell, which is kind of low-key insane. How do you feel about that? You obviously are a Toronto fan. So
Yes.
you've been kind of locked in on her since the start.
Again, I say she hasn't had like the most stellarly consistent career in the PWHL, but she's had a lot of past success. Obviously, in the first year, she won Goaltender of the Year. And, maybe like last season wasn't her best or anything, but I think she was injured. And I think...
She had some consistency issues.
Yeah, she does, but
Yeah.
I think we should be okay with her. And I think if she isn't forced to be the starting goalie, I think that will also help.
Yeah. She was kind of overplayed near the end there in
Yeah.
the playoffs. I think especially you could definitely tell she was struggling
Yeah.
with confidence. I think.
And I think that we had other goalies, CJ, for instance,
Carly Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that Kirk was injured.
She was.
Yeah, which didn't make things easier. But
Yeah.
I really do think that we could have balanced that out more and like, balanced out the playing time in Toronto for them, for those
Yeah.
two goalies at least. So I think in Vancouver, I'm hoping that that's what they do, that they
It's more of a
balance the starting
tandem.
time,
Yeah.
more of an actual true tandem.
Yeah, I know we were talking in our first episode about what we would like the situation for Mashmeyer to be because she's
Yeah.
also coming back from I think a pretty severe injury. She
Yes.
tore her ACL. So we were kind of hoping like maybe she gets to have a little more time off than like really being ridden the way that she was in Ottawa.
Yeah.
So I think if she can trade off some time with Campbell, they're both good goalies.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully if they both get that good time in,
Yeah.
we should have a successful goalie tandem.
Yeah. And also I'm not like glad, but I'm kind of we're not just throwing a rookie goalie into this team with huge expectations on them.
That's true.
And saying sink or swim.
Yeah, they both have experience in the league. They were both actually foundational signings for their teams.
Yeah.
Also, this was another question a lot of people had when Campbell ended up being signed. They were like, "How is Vancouver doing this with the salary cap?"
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of. I mean, look at our free agency, right? We signed basically all the big names that were to be signed in free agency, to say nothing of our exclusive signing window and, you know, all that stuff. And they were like, hey, how are you fitting in Kristen Campbell now? And it's because apparently, according to the Hockey News, I learned this a couple of days ago, we have salary retention now in trades.
Yeah.
So Toronto apparently retained a little bit on Campbell's salary, so Vancouver isn't paying the entirety of whatever her salary is.
Yeah.
So that means that she is kind of being snuck in there on a reduced salary from what people might think that she was making before.
Yeah, especially because in our expansion draft, we did draft a few, you know, probably less expensive players as well, depth players. And again, remains to be seen with what we do with the people we drafted, you know, what the contract situation is going to be like in the entry draft. Yeah. One thing I do wish is that the PWHL was a little bit more transparent about these kind of things, like knowing whether we could trade players until it happened, or, you know, knowing about retention until it happened.
Yeah. There's a lot about the PWHL that just kind of, they seem to just kind of drop things as they go, like with the entire expansion process, essentially.
Exactly.
It was just kind of like, we didn't even know what order teams would be picking in the entry draft until like after, like it was not very transparent.
Yeah, so that's one thing I would like more transparency, just so we know this information and so we can convey it better. Exactly.
Anyway, we want to be better podcasters.
Exactly.
For you.
Help us. Anyway.
No, but it's actually
yeah. After Campbell,
which was a huge trade that rocked me.
Yes, exactly. We had another very exciting pick.
The third pick in the draft, our third pick in the draft, our third round pick.
Yeah, our third round
19th
pick.
overall.
Yes. We got Nina Job-Smith, and I'm pronouncing it the way she pronounces it. So,
Nina Job-Smith. Anyway, so she is a defender from the University of Minnesota Duluth. She is on the German national team.
Yeah, because she's a dual citizen of Canada and Germany.
Yes, from North Vancouver.
Yeah, so also
with, I believe, a German mother, just like us.
Just like us.
This is an enormously important pick for the two of us.
Yeah, Lordrop, we're German.
Lord, yeah, which is why I was in Germany with my German mother. Yeah. So the fact that she was drafted to the Vancouver team while I was in Germany watching the draft at 3 a.m. or whatever, it was just a very cool moment for me. And then the next morning I was like, Mommy, if you haven't, you know, Job Smith could draft it or whatever. So that was pretty cool.
Great win for Vancouver, Germany, obviously Nina herself, and also Ashton Bell.
They're together.
Exactly. This is the second couple on our team.
Yeah, which is pretty sick. And I think the most of any team.
Yeah.
In the PWHL.
I think so.
Yeah. I just think that's a nice segment. We don't need to like dwell too much on the fact that we have the gayest team in the league. But I think it's cool.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I'm really happy for them. When Nina was drafted, they were both crying. Ashton Bell was obviously there sitting with her family, and I was a little worried when I saw them crying that maybe, like, oh my god, are they upset? Like, does Nina not want to go to Vancouver or something? And I noticed Ashton Bell, and I was like, wait a second, I think they're actually happy.
Yeah.
These are happy tears, not sad tears.
And I keep saying Nina instead of her last name because I can't bring myself to say Jobst. Anyway, moving on.
Well, that is how she says that.
So I know. Okay. I will get better at it again. And then with our fourth round pick, we selected Brianna Brooks.
Yeah, from Penn State. Yay! I think she's their first ever selection, actually.
From Penn State?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
in
cool.
the PWHL draft. And then like, basically immediately after that, her teammate was also drafted to Seattle.
That's pretty cool.
So, so now they're kind of like teammates, now they're expansion rivals, I guess.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool.
Do you know how tall she is?
Brianna?
Yeah.
She's 5'9".
That is a good height. That is a good, solid height.
For a center, which she is.
Yes.
And I've heard tell somewhere that she's good at face-offs, which I'm expecting now a really good face-off percentage for probably our fourth line center.
That is pretty, 55%. That's pretty high.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, if you're good at face-offs.
If you're good at face-offs, I'm just saying I have expectations. But what if I'm actually wrong, though? Like, what if she doesn't, what if she's actually not good at face-offs?
She's going to be excellent at face-offs because you said so.
Because I said so. Brianna,
please save us from saying things on the internet.
Please be good at face-offs so I'm right.
Yeah. We're going to be keeping, like, manual track. Well, no, we don't keep manual track. There's probably stats for this somewhere.
Yeah, PWHL Insights.
Yeah.
Maybe might help us with that.
But we're going to be locked into the stats this season. Brianna. Tracking specifically her face-off percentage. Just you wait and see.
It's going to be, like, a theme.
Exactly.
We're going to update you.
Yeah.
I can't wait for games to be played. Like, we're talking about this, like, the more excited I get.
I know.
Honestly, just about kind of games.
Anyway, next selection, 5th round, we got Maddie Semiskevich.
Yes. Another notable win for us, Primary Tenant Pod, because she's a twin.
We are also twins.
Guess what we are? We're twins.
Yeah.
So I just think this is just an excellent draft for us because we got the German Canadian from the Vancouver area, and we got the twin.
Yeah.
And then we also got another person who is specifically tailored to make us happy. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Anyways, like, who is her twin? That's not really important. We're focused on her.
Exactly. You may have heard of her twin, but we're not talking about him right now. Maddie played last year, her senior year, as a center for Quinnipiac, but she played like her entire career before that as a defender.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so she
That's an incredible switch.
made the switch to center in her like final year, and she was really good too.
Yeah.
So it's like I think she literally switched to, like, first line center.
Wow.
In her final year.
They must have just. I mean, the people at Quinnipiac must have just been like, "You are it."
Wait, how do you pronounce I've been saying Quinnipiac. Is that not right?
I think it's right. I fumbled through it. Anyway. I've never said that word before in my life. Okay.
I don't watch a lot of NCAA, so maybe it's wrong. Maybe I'm saying Quinnipiac wrong.
We can just call it the Q.
The Q.
Doesn't matter what the other Q is. This is the Q.
This is the Q.
Yeah. Anyway, she played amazing.
Yeah, she did. She was like really consistent in her like final like 3 years in points as well. It was like 21 points, 22 points, 22 points, something like that.
Yeah.
Even after like her switch to C, which is crazy.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Just like consistent points getting.
I know. You know what? I think we should bring back the rover, the 7th position.
Just for her.
Yeah, just for her.
Yeah.
Because she seems like she was just really good at both.
Yeah.
And very consistent.
I'm very hopeful about what that could mean for our lineup. I mean, I think she is probably going to be more of a depth player, but like having that depth, she could play, a forward position. She could also play D.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy for depth. I'm just really excited for that because injuries can hit any sport, any team, in the PWHL really, really hard.
Yeah. Like, who knows? Perhaps our entire defensive core goes down with like horrible gastrointestinal illness. And then she's like, okay,
we'll not speak that into existence.
We are not. That was just a random example.
Yeah, but the fact that like she could, fill in anywhere, she could slot in anywhere. So, like forward or D. I love pivots.
Yeah.
Like players who can basically play both. It seems to be a little bit more common in the women's game than in the men's game. I'm trying to think of like other examples. I know there are like in the PWHL players who have like played both. I feel like Laskova might be one. I could be wrong on that. I think she mostly plays D now, but I feel like I've seen her listed as a forward. And I think Leia Lum was also a pivot. I miss Lum. I miss Leia Lum so much. She was also from Vancouver.
Yeah.
And she played for Montreal in the first year, and she's just an absolute legend. I miss her.
It's just so fascinating to think about because of course we won't know until the season starts. If she's going to, be on the starting roster or, what her position is going to be.
Yeah.
But I'm already prognosticating, a game in which she starts as a forward and then there's a weird thing that happens and she has to go on as defense and she gets a hattie and I can see it all in my mind.
Every single face-off that she takes part in, she's just in another position on the ice.
Yeah.
Why not?
I know. That would be incredible. Anyway, again, like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I'm just really excited for the season to start.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our ramblings about Maddie Samskevich.
Yeah. And then with our final pick in the PWHL entry draft.
The last pick in the draft.
The 48th pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. PWHL Vancouver was proud to select from the UBC Thunderbirds, Shanry Bassey!
When this pick came through, I was at my desk, and I started doing this in front of everyone because I was so excited. Another lore drop. We go to UBC, and we have watched her basically play every week for the last 2 or 3 years. From behind the bench, basically. And
right behind the bench.
I can't say enough good things about this pick. I'm so thrilled.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I was so happy when I heard it picked. In last year's draft, the player from UBC that everyone kind of thought could go was Ryland McKinnon. And so I watched last year's draft, with the expectation, the hope, every single pick, every single round that Ryland McKinnon would be picked. And she wasn't picked, and it was deeply disappointing to me and made me really sad.
And then, of course, she was signed by Toronto, which made me very happy.
Exactly.
As a Toronto fan.
Yeah. And now she was signed by Boston, and Ryland McKinnon is staying in the league, so I'm really happy about that. But in this year's draft, there were a lot of U Sports players who declared for the draft and everything.
But in a pool of almost 200 players.
Exactly.
And only 48 selections, I didn't really think our chances were that high.
Yeah, but then, it was... the rounds were going by, the picks were being made, and I was thinking, oh my god, we might not get a U Sports pick at all this year.
Yeah.
And like, are we gonna get a UBC pick? And then I was like on the Discord, and I was looking, and someone said UBC, like a UBC Thunderbird will be picked next with the last pick, and I was like, what the heck? Like, where's this information coming from?
And then
I was like, is this person like bullshitting? Like, is it true? And then Gardner Morey goes up to the stage and is like, we're picking Bassie, and I lost my mind. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. A UBC Thunderbird, not just, U Sports. I would have been happy for any U Sports player, but our Chan-Marie Bassie.
And she plays so hard. She plays so fast.
Yeah.
She has, like...
She's in the record book so many times over for UBC. She's, like, in the top 5 for almost every stat that there is.
Yeah.
She's been, like, U Sports Canada West All-Star, like, for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
It's just... I think she's amazing.
I know. Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Because I was so sad that I wasn't going to be able to see her play next year for free. But now I'm like, but now I can just watch her play for money. She's going to get my money.
She's going to get our money, man.
That's incredible.
We can buy Bassie jerseys.
Hopefully. They better come out with, like, an extensive, selection of options.
Player jerseys.
Please?
Yeah.
Please?
Just so that we can get Bassie jerseys. I mean,
Yeah.
people have been able to get customizable jersey options somehow.
Yeah.
But I would just love to be able to buy one from the store and say, Chan-Marie Bassie, PWHL Vancouver.
Yeah, give it to me. Forking over all of my dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
I know. That was just really the pick that solidified everything, like, no matter... The rest of our picks were incredible. A lot of local people, the gayest team in the league. That makes me very happy.
Yeah.
And the location of the arena.
Hockey skill.
Yeah, exactly. Everything about...
Don't forget about that. We have really good players, too.
Yeah. Everything about that made me so happy. And then the last pick solidified that I am ride or die for this team forever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think the thing with the Bassie pick was I saw people... One specific person who I won't mention on Twitter who was like, with the last pick of the draft, Gardner Morey makes, a nice little, pick for, like, the Vancouver locals, a feel-good pick, for the fans at home or whatever. Something about that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
I'm like, yeah, because she is also a good hockey player in her own right who can compete at training camp.
Yeah, it's not just like a throwaway pick, for the fans at home. It's like there are only 48 picks total in the draft. There's no room in the draft for, like, charity picks or something.
No.
Every single it's not just like a token U Sports player or something.
Yeah.
Every single player who's picked in that draft has to be expected to be able to compete and play on the team.
And I also really didn't like that because she was the first ever South Asian player selected in a PWHL draft.
Yeah.
That is really cool, and I don't like seeing that put down or something like that by saying, oh, it was a charity pick. It's like, no, it wasn't a charity pick.
She's a player.
Yeah. She's
a record holder with
exactly.
her team and in the league that she played in.
And I want to say she's the first and she's not going to be the last.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm really hyped.
Yeah, we got to put some respect on Chan-Marie Bassie's name.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Please.
Yeah, and Gardner Morey isn't stupid.
No.
She said that she believes that Bassie can play on the team and in the league, and I believe her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, McKinnon has also shown that you can play coming from U Sports, and Facto has shown that.
And UBC.
And also Canada West, which is our conference, UBC's conference.
UBC has consistently dominated Canada West for the past however many years, that at least since I've been there at UBC. And Chan-Marie Bassie has just been a major part of that every single year. She's points getting, goal scoring, everything.
Yeah.
Gritty, she does it all, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so just to recap the players that we currently have, now that we've, gone through all of them, starting with the exclusive signing window, we have Claire Thompson, Sophie Jakes, Emerence Mashmeyer, Sarah Nurse, Jen Gardner. In the expansion draft, we got Ashton Bell, Brooke McQuigg, Abby Boreen, Izzy Daniel, Gabby Rosenthal, Denisa Krishisova, Sydney Bard. And in free agency, we got Hannah Miller, Michaela Kava, Teresa Vanishova, Emma Greco, Melissa Channel-Watkins. And in the draft, we got Michelle Carvinen, Kristen Campbell through trade, Nina Jobe-Smith, Brianna Brooks, Maddie Samiskevich, and Chan-Marie Bassie. And I felt like I just did that no. But that's our team, everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible. And of course, with a team, one must have a head coach.
Yeah. Who we also got, in between free agency and the draft, I think.
Exactly.
Brian Idalski, who we pulled from St. Cloud, where he pulled the program up out of misery into a decent state of competitiveness.
I love that.
Basically, people just seem to have really good things to say about him, just generally. And he has previously coached a lot of the players that we also have now on our roster.
I'm also glad to say he has experience coaching women's hockey.
Is that a slight dig at Seattle?
Not really. No.
Yeah, you said that because it was a slight dig at Seattle. Anyway,
Yeah.
Back to Brian and the players on Vancouver that he's previously coached. So he previously coached Kristen Campbell and Michelle Carvinen at the University of North Dakota back when they had a women's program.
Which they don't anymore.
They cut it, and then they had to find other places to play, which sucks. Anyway,
Yeah.
he was the coach there. And then he also coached Hannah Miller and Michaela Kava, and also Michelle Carvinen again, in the Russian League, I think in 2021 or something like that. The Vancouver Rays, yes, in the Russian League.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's five players.
Yeah.
Who have been previously coached by him, and so
Pretty
there's-
solid
yeah,
number.
Like basically not all of our veterans, but like
Quite a
decent
few.
chunk
Yeah.
of like our veteran core now has experience with the head coach.
That's really cool.
Which
I like that.
I do really like that. I think he had a hand maybe in picking Carvinen.
Oh, yeah, because he was at the draft table.
Yeah, they
Yep.
were all there, the coaches, the GMs, everyone at these little tables and their little laptops.
That was
was-
so much fun.
yeah,
It was
we
such a good vibe.
We just finished the NHL draft too, which was like the absolute opposite of that, the most miserable horror
Yeah.
ever.
You
So
know, because I was
thinking
watching the
back-
PWHL draft, it was on mute, and I was, it wasn't on mute because I wanted it to be. And I was just thinking, oh, this is a nice vibe. Maybe not the best draft I've ever watched, but it's a nice vibe.
It was a really good vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that if you were listening to it, you could hear the broadcasters, Cheryl Pounder, Kenzie Lalonde, echoing throughout the arena, which felt a little bit awkward. So I was like, oh, maybe they could fix this for next time.
Yeah.
But then we watched the NHL draft, which was the most horrible experience ever, and I was like, you know
And
what?
maybe just
The PWHL draft was just absolutely on top. The
Yeah.
best draft ever.
That's all you have.
10 out of 10 no notes.
In
Just
fact,
perfect.
people had great outfits. I loved the selections. It was all great. No notes. Thank you.
we really loved I really love watching the draft, even though it was
Yeah.
way too early in the morning for me.
Yeah, it's fine.
I had
It's
a great
fine.
experience. I was so
Yeah.
happy at the end of it. I woke up happy. I mean, I didn't fall asleep, so I didn't wake up. I just got out of bed happy, and then I got on a plane happy. And then when I was actually on my plane back from
yeah.
the Frankfurt flight, the flight from Frankfurt to Vancouver, because we had a connecting flight, Hamburg and then Frankfurt to
Yep.
Sandra Abstreiter, Montreal Victoire, Team Germany goalie, was on my flight. It was insane. We were like standing there. We had the absolute most horrible connection ever, standing around in this horrible hot little lobby or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, that's her, my mom, who is not the biggest PWHL knower, but she is getting there. And of course, she's German, so she likes the German players. She was like, is that Abstreiter? And I was like, yeah. We were like, okay, we're not going to bother her. Like, she walked in and focused and everything. And then we get on the plane. My mom has the worst migraine ever, and it's just horrible. 10 hours of misery. And then I'm up there, like, waiting. My mom's getting, like, wheelchaired off, so we're waiting for everyone to get off and for her to get loaded into a wheelchair and everything, because of her horrible migraine. And we see Abstreiter walk by. My mom, in the direst straits of misery with the worst migraine ever, is like, is that Abstreiter?
I really hope that she heard that. Even if you didn't, go and like bother her, I hope
Yeah.
that she heard that. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I've got fans on this airplane.
Yeah, she looked really locked in. She looked really focused. She was there for Jen Gardner's hockey camp. So that's why she was flying into Vancouver, and that's why I knew it was her. I knew she was going to be there, so I
Yeah.
was like, okay, it makes sense that Abstreiter would be in Vancouver right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really funny. I didn't go chase her down at the baggage claim. I kind of wanted to, but I think it wasn't the time and place. My mom was very sick, so I wasn't going to do that. But I think it did give a little sprig of happiness and joy to my mom's horrible flight to know that Abstreiter was walking past us.
I'm so sad that I wasn't there
goalie
for
legend.
that. Instead, I was at home. And then, of course, I flew off to Prince George, and we couldn't record then either.
Yeah.
And I flew back. And now we're recording.
Now we're recording.
Yeah.
We're finally recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we have given a little bit of short shrift to like our expansion draft players, our free agency players. Are just any like fun stories that you just want to tell about how we reacted to the expansion draft, the free agency players?
The expansion draft. Oh, again, just thrilled that we got Daniel. Yeah, very creative player. Very, very happy to have her in Vancouver.
She's also our second Patty Kaz
Yeah.
winner after
Yeah.
Jake's.
Yeah.
Izzy Daniel also won the Patty Kazmaier Award.
Yeah, which is best in NCAA hockey, by the way.
Yeah. So that's honestly really cool. We have two of those.
Yeah.
And she also wears your favorite number.
Number 8.
Number 8.
It is my favorite number.
It is Joy's favorite number.
Yes.
It's also the date of our birth is the 8th.
Yeah, but it's the number I would wear if I played hockey.
Yes.
So she's my favorite. I hope she keeps number 8 in Vancouver. Please keep 8. But whoever number 8 is will automatically have like a piece of my heart, no matter
Exactly.
what.
Yeah.
Of course, they all do already, but
It's just a special thing.
Yeah.
So Izzy Daniel. Ashton Bell. So we talked earlier about how Maddie Samskevich is like a pivot, like played D, switched to center. Ashton Bell played 2 U18s as a forward. Like she was a forward, I think, basically until she hit college, and then she transitioned to D, and like now she's an absolute horse of a defender.
Wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she was Ottawa's number 1D, one of them in the playoffs and everything, and really logged so many minutes, and she was a huge part of that playoff run and everything in the back half of the season. And she became a defender in college, I think.
That's crazy!
Which is insane. So, like, now we have, like, 2 players who have that kind of, like, switching positions backstory, which I just think is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that detail.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Michaela Cava, I want to talk about her a little bit, too, because she was also one of, like, the premium free agents, I think, along with Hannah Miller and Vanishova. Like, they were kind of the big 3 where everyone was like, where are they going to go? And I remember, like, months ago when we knew that we were getting a team, but like the free agency, the draft, it was all just kind of, no one knew what was really happening yet. I was out walking with a friend, and he didn't really know much with the PWHL, so I was just like telling him stuff, and he was like, so who do you want to get? You know, who do you want Vancouver to get? And I was like, Michaela Cava! Let me tell you about her. And I was like, she's won everything, you know, every title dating back, 5 years ago or whatever it is, like the PWHL titles and SDHL and the Russian League and everything. Like, she's won all this stuff. And then, like, I hadn't really been thinking that much about her until I had that conversation with my friend, because before then she'd been on Minnesota. She's a good player. She had all this legendary status and everything, but she was again on Minnesota, not my favorite team, so I didn't think about her that much. And then suddenly the seed was planted in my brain. I was like, what if we got her on Vancouver?
Yeah.
What if we get her on Vancouver?
And then it happened.
Yeah, and then it was
another pick for us.
it was just rolling for months and months and months. Like, oh my god, we can get Cava, and then we did, and I was like, oh my god, like I honestly felt so smart in that moment. I was like, I predicted this months ago. I mean, I was hoping for it months ago.
Yeah. Also, I had another crazy thought. So, not that crazy. Related to the expansion draft. Essentially, we got Sydney Bard, and we have a local Shakespeare festival in Vancouver called Bard on the Beach. And what I think should happen is that they give her free tickets. Yes. Bard on the Beach gives her free tickets to go and, like, say, September when they're closing the season or something like that. And just, I don't know, she becomes linked to Bard on the Beach. I just
there
want
should be
that to
like a
happen.
signing opportunity.
Yeah.
There should be some kind of like collab. It should be like, hey, Sydney Bard is here for Bard on the Beach.
Exactly.
If you're a hockey fan and a Shakespeare fan, invite Katie Lund of Fellowship of the Rink. Invite us.
Yeah.
Invite the PWHL Vancouver influencers and invite Sydney Bard and have a signing opportunity. What do you think?
That
We're
sounds
making
great.
so many good decisions already.
Yeah. Or, at least just like an Instagram post going like, Bard on the Beach, please.
Sydney Bard. Please, 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 please.
You will literally become my favorite if you do this. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's kind of the silly thing I wanted to end off on. Yeah. So, I think that's it for us.
Yay! Yeah. Pipers, play on!
Exactly.
Or whatever the line is. What is it?
From a Shakespeare play?
Yeah.
Something like that. Strike up pipes or something. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Yep.
The setup this time, we have a sign now, so I feel like it's a definite upgrade.
Oh yeah. Huge budget right there.
You can see our faces.
Yes. And we hope to have a more regular episode coming next that doesn't have an enormous gap in the middle where we're randomly flying in planes everywhere.
In different cities, different countries.
Yeah. So we should have a better setup now, continuing forward.
Yeah, anyway, Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. And go! PWHL Vancouver!
Woo! Bye!
Bye!